All right, so this week we're dealing with Taharah, and which means cleanliness. Okay, so the word used for impurity is najasa. And najasa means every kind of impurity: filth, pollution, defilement, things that render, anything that makes something unclean and dirty. And so tonight we'll be talking about clean things and dirty things. And our Shari'ah gives us some concessions as a favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number one, avoidance. If you can't avoid an impurity, then Allah will overlook it for you. For example, you go out, it's raining, mud everywhere, water from the gutter flowing and drop it, fall on your clothes, you can't avoid it. Then Allah will overlook that. Or, for example, sometimes you bathe the dead and some of the water may splash on you. Allah overlooks that and allows you to, gives you as a concession for that. That impurity that you have will be considered as, not liable from Allah. Number two is that if you have a doubt about something, then, or if you're not certain, generally if we're not certain about things, we keep away from them. But if you're certain that this water is pure, and then somebody came and gave you some story about, that water, I don't think it's as pure, but you are certain. Certainty cannot be changed with doubt. So if somebody brings something that you doubt, or like a suspicion, your position of being certain remains. You don't change that for some suspicion. Necessity dictates exceptions. If you're in a bad situation where the only option you have is to get involved in something impure, then Allah will forgive you for it. We mentioned that in the halal and haram principles. For example, if the only food you have is you have to eat a piece of bacon, then Allah will forgive you for it. And He said you're allowed to partake of it, except you don't crave, want it, desire it, and you only take enough to ease your situation. Human nature, the Sharia will take into account human nature. I mentioned before, if you have some water and the disbelievers or a disbeliever gave you water to drink, you will consider it pure, because humans by their nature want to have pure things around them. They don't just deliberately go and try to gather impure things. So that will be taken into account, and the Sharia will not hold you to fault for that. And then if something is impure, but the size of it is like a dirham, which is about 1/2 inch radius, roughly, if small impurities, it's overlooked by the Sharia. Some of the scholars even mention that if you go to the subway and they take the knife and they use it for something, and there's small impurities in the knife, that it will be overlooked. But that's an area under discussion. But generally, if you have a small impurity, it's not counted as being on you. I want to mention that generally the Sharia tries to minimize waste without and trying to keep cleanliness whilst minimizing waste. And sometimes we, in that society, for example, if something falls in your butter, they don't throw the whole butter out. They take that little piece and do that. But now we're living in a society where we might be affluent and we don't have that issue. We'll be tempted to say, hey, throw the whole thing out, buy a new pack of butter. We ain't dealing with that. And so in your cultural context, you may, decide to go in the area of wasting because you can afford to. So you have to always balance that and try not to be too wasteful. But it is an understanding that, okay, we can afford the next pack of butter. It won't affect us any. I'm not comfortable with this piece that fall in the butter, that we're going to take the other piece. And that's fine. This other thing is that there are some people who are, I don't know what to call them. They have an obsession with cleaning and with being clean, and they want to impose it on everybody else in the world. We should avoid that. If you have a particular cleaning obsession, then you should try not to understand that not everybody will be in the same way like you, and that you've got to know that everybody has a journey and they come from a different background, and so we must facilitate that and encourage people. What is sad is that because of poverty and maybe because of some neglect, the Muslims and the Muslim world is not known to be a place of cleanliness. You know, despite all these rules and regulations that our religion have, our people are still not known as the cleanest on the earth. In fact, we are considered to be the dirtiest people. You know, and so this is a sad reality that affects us. And so we've got to begin to encourage our children, and from very young, develop cleanliness, help our kids to be able to overcome all of these areas, and teach them from young that cleanliness is part of godliness, is part of our faith, it's part of who the Muslim is, that we take time to clean. Cleaning is not just because we need to clean, no. It is part of the religion that we belong to. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. So I wanted to finish.